that. My name is Billy King, and I was introduced to the three principles in about 1994, 95, something like that, I think. And so I, after I had my, I guess you could say the first revelation about the principles, I went from holding on to something to holding on to nothing. Yeah. So that was kind of the scary part, you know. All of a sudden I was holding on to nothing. You know, it's kind of like, how's this going to work out? What am I going to say? Before it was a bunch of stuff on a piece of paper. It's okay, I'm right here now. Okay, I'm right here now, right? Now it's not like that anymore. It's like, okay. I do some work with juveniles in juvenile hall, right? So I've been working with this kid since he's about 13. He's probably 15 now, right? So I had to see him on and off, on and off, on and off. But we have this great relationship. And so he shows up at juvenile hall, right? And he's like, well, we do it 2 times, right? We do it twice. So he showed up at juvenile hall 2 times in the last 2 months, right? About that. So the first time he shows up, he says, this is real different because when I knew this kid in the schools, he was challenging the principals to fight, he was challenging the teachers to fight, he was just a terror in the school, right? And so it's almost like you don't want to think it, but you say, well, you may see him in juvenile hall, right? Kind of thing, right? And so lo and behold, there he is, shows up in juvenile hall, right? But when he shows up in juvenile hall, he is so different, I don't even recognize him. He says to me, he says, hey, Billy. I said, what? He says, I'm here because of my anger, and I want to work on it. And I said, okay.
Nice.
I know, it's like blew my mind, you know. So I said, okay, let's do this, you know. So we just started talking about, you know, how we create personal thoughts that, you know, that give us this experience of anger and stress and so on and so forth, right? So it's personal and so on, you know. So we had a little session, right? And so he left and he went home, and then he came back this last time. So this last time, everybody said, oh, so is back, you know, and I'm like, okay. And so he says, this time, you know, he may not be going home, right? And so I says, okay. So he says, you got to see this kid, right? So I said, all right. So he comes in, right? So he says, Billy, I says, what? He says, I did some things to my family, and it was just horrible, you know. He says, I lost it. I said, okay. So I didn't have a lot of time with him this time, right? He's going to be there for a while and have a chance to talk to him quite often. And so he says, so we talking. And he says, so I says, okay, it's time for us to go now. He says, okay. You know, he says, I feel better. He says, but I'm scared to go back to my room. I says, why are you scared to go back to your room? He says, because I start remembering all this stuff that I did to my sister and her girlfriend and so on and so forth, right? And so I look at him in his eye, right? And I said, son, I says, you have to let that go. And he looked me in my eye and he says, how do I do that? I said, well. It was like, so he had to go back to his room and I had to go about my business, and I'm walking off thinking, whoa, how, you know, I assume so much when I use words. I use words and expect people to understand what I'm saying to them. You see? I said, this young person has no clue about, you know, how that works and what that's about. You see? So he's heard those words probably quite often from me and maybe other people, but it just hasn't clicked to him in terms of, you know, what you can almost say separate realities, right? You throw a word out, I think about it one way, he thinks about it another way. I think about it and says he's going to get relief. He thinks about it and he gets more traumatized. Or he gets more confused. So, and that points back to the 3 principles, right? He's using his principles to create his experience of the word. I'm using the principles to, you know, see my experience of the word, you know. So it's kind of like, you hear Sid say all the time, don't listen to the words, don't listen to the words. Is his behavior versus what's behind his behavior. And so, of course, if I would just be, for me, the simplicity of that is, his beliefs are behind his behaviors, okay? His beliefs is why he does what he does. So his beliefs are personal thoughts. So he thinks about something a certain way, that becomes how he thinks it's supposed to be. And so that's the innocence, right? You see the behaviors, but you don't see, we missed the part about, something's driving this, you see. And then when you take it deeper, you go back to mind, thought, and consciousness, you see. Those are the principles that we use to create our personal beliefs, you see. So that's where we're going with this whole thing. And so, so it happens a lot, in my case. I have a couple of kids that they assigned me, and these kids are just like this kid I just got through talking about, right? It's almost like what they call a habitual criminal, right? At 15, 14. And so these kids are just, that's what they do, they try to prove themselves, So they say, okay, Billy, take these two kids, work with these two kids. What they're saying to me is, change these two kids. Hey, wait, we know you could do it, right? I said, all right. Right. And so I said, so I'm working with the kids, pretty intensely, right? And so the kids do it well in the hall, right? They go home, right? And almost to the letter, they were home for a month, and boom, they're back in the hall. Now people are angry at me. Right? So it's kind of like, what do I do with that? You see, I go back to the principles. I go back to separate reality, and I have a understanding that they use the principles, that there's a time frame for these kids to change. For them to be able to see thought and let it go. You see? So in their minds, there's a time frame. So that's why they got anxious. That's why they had all this personal thinking about, this is a failure. And so because I have that understanding, I'm not losing my faith that change is possible. I know one thing, I can't get through a person's belief system to help them to see the other side of it, you see. I'm trying to get them to let go of that so that their mind calms, and then I'll start talking about inside out, inside out, inside out. And for me, the secret to that is just the rapport that I get with the person, you see. And then the rest is left up to innate health, them having an epiphany, their level of consciousness, they have an epiphany, you see. I can't force epiphanies. And the hope is that they connect the dots and, oh, goodness, look what I've been doing to myself all these years. So, you don't have to take everything on, you don't want to get in arguments, you don't want to discount people, you don't want to make people live, think the way you think, that's not what I'm about, I want to see that they have this power to create their own experiences, and that's all that we ever do. That's how simple our mind works. That's the function of our mind. That's the role of thought, is to give us an experience, And we give ourselves any kind of experience that we want to give ourselves, because we are the creator. And the material that we're using to create is energy. Formless energy into form. We call the form an illusion. So that's all I'm trying to help people to see. Once they see that, it's like, it's the other way around. It's not happening to me. I'm not doing this because I think it's going to help me. It's like, I just have the ability to do that, you see. So it's almost like the level of consciousness, when your consciousness reaches that level, it's like, I'm just having an experience versus I'm dying, or, I'm traumatizing myself, I'm just having an experience.